All right, let's just jump right in. We're living in a world where AI is everywhere, right? It feels like it's getting smarter every single day, just flowing like tap water. And that brings up a really big question for all of us. If a machine can know more than you, what's your actual value? Well, the answer, it probably isn't what you think. It's wild to think that 400 years ago, Shakespeare wrote these words, but they kind of hit home today, don't they? With all this intelligence buzzing around us, it's so easy to feel completely overwhelmed, like you're just caught in this storm of noise and change. All that sound and fury can start to feel like it signifies, well, nothing. So, that leads us right back to the main event. When any fact can be pulled up by an AI in a nanosecond, what is it that makes you valuable? Is it the stuff you crammed for in an exam? The skills you have at this very moment? Let's really dig in here, because the answer is all about a totally different kind of intelligence. Okay, first things first, we've got to bust a major myth. The idea that being a super specialized expert is the key to job security. It used to be true, right? You'd pick a field, go really deep, and you were set for life. Yeah, that world is over. The rules for what makes you valuable have completely changed. Think about it this way. Relying only on what you already know is a lot like holding on to burnt toast. For a second, it looks like it could be useful, but it's actually brittle, useless, and it's headed straight for the trash. In a world moving this fast, knowledge that can't adapt just goes stale. And this really sets the stage perfectly. On one side, you've got AI. It's the undisputed champ of speed, of copying knowledge, of crunching data. But, and this is a big but, it can't do what we do. It doesn't have our lived experiences, our weird gut feelings that connect totally random ideas, and it definitely doesn't have our judgment. That's our playground. That's our edge. And that brings us to the real key. The skill that matters more than anything else right now is what we call transferable intelligence. It's got nothing to do with what you know, it's all about how you use it. It's that magic ability to see a pattern over here in one field and then apply that same idea to solve a completely different problem over there. Now, this isn't some brand new sci-fi concept. Not at all. In fact, it's an advantage that's as old as time. The most impactful people in history, they weren't just specialists, they were polymaths, people who could think across all sorts of boundaries. I mean, just look at some of the greats. Take Leonardo da Vinci. His genius wasn't just about painting the Mona Lisa. It was how he connected what he learned from studying human anatomy to his engineering blueprints, and how all of that flowed back into his art. Each area fed the others, creating this incredible cycle of innovation. And then you've got someone like Benjamin Franklin. The guy was a printer, a scientist, a politician, a diplomat, the whole shebang. He didn't see these as separate jobs. No, they were just different ways to understand the world. His scientific thinking, for example, made him a much better diplomat. Or look at the legendary physicist Richard Feynman. He famously used the core ideas of physics to change how he taught and told stories. He could make these unbelievably complex topics feel simple because he understood them from so many different angles. And to bring it right into our time, think about Elon Musk. He's constantly mixing physics with engineering, with economics, to completely upend entire industries, from electric cars to shooting rockets into space. It's the combination of those fields that gives him an edge, not just being a master of one. Okay, so we get what transferable intelligence is, and we definitely get why it's so important. So the next logical question is, how do you actually build it? How do you do it? Well, here's a simple 4-part toolkit to help you evolve your own thinking and pretty much future-proof your value. The framework is pretty simple, but it's incredibly powerful. First, you have to learn how to learn. Second, you build up a toolbox of mental models. Third, you've got to get your hands dirty and actually practice solving problems. And finally, you just repeat that cycle over and over. Let's break each one down real quick. So step 1 is meta-learning. This is huge. Smart learners don't just passively absorb information. They're always thinking about how they're learning. They ask themselves questions like, wait, how does this actually work? Or, where else could this idea be useful? It's all about grabbing the steering wheel of your own learning process. Next up, mental models. Look, facts get old and outdated fast, but these thinking tools, they last a lifetime. A mental model is just a simple way to explain how something works. From physics, you get cause and effect. From biology, you learn about adaptation. From psychology, you see how bias works. You start to build what the famous investor Charlie Munger called a latticework of mental models, and suddenly, you can tackle brand new problems without even needing new facts. Step 3 is all about putting your knowledge to the test. There's that great line, often attributed to Einstein, if you can't explain something simply, you don't understand it. And it's so true. Your intelligence grows when you actually use it to solve puzzles, to experiment, to try explaining an idea to someone else. This is how you build real mental flexibility. And that brings us to the final step, which is really a mindset shift. The goal isn't to just accumulate facts like you're piling food on your plate at a buffet. No, the goal is to iterate. You apply what you learn, see what happens, and then you adjust. And in this new way of thinking, mistakes aren't failures. They're not something to be embarrassed about. They are just feedback, pure and simple. So let's bring it all home. Let's go back to that one central question. In a world where AI is doing all the heavy lifting with data, what is your true, irreplaceable value? This chart really says it all. AI's processing speed, it's off the charts. We literally cannot compete there. And you know what? We shouldn't even try. Our value is in a completely different arena. It's in our uniquely human intuition and our judgment. That ability to connect the dots, to draw on our messy life experiences, and to make the tough calls when there's no clear answer. That's where we win. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to chew on. The big question is no longer about how much you know right now. The real question, the one that truly matters, is this. Is your value locked in what you know today, or is it in how fast you can learn and evolve for tomorrow? Answering that is your real advantage in the age of AI.